Han stood at the massive window of the Galactic Council space station, his dark eyes fixed on the swirling colors of the nearby nebula. 20 years as a human diplomat hadn't prepared him for what he'd just read. His hand shook as he held the datapad, its screen still glowing with the disturbing report. "Ambassador Han." A soft voice called from behind him. "The secure channel is ready." He turned to face his assistant and nodded. "Thank you. Make sure no one disturbs me." In his private office, Han activated the encrypted communication line. The holographic image of Dara flickered to life above his desk. Her usually neat uniform was dirty, and her face showed signs of exhaustion. "Tell me I read your report wrong," Han said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tell me they didn't really find what I think they found." Dara's image shimmered as she shook her head. "I wish I could. I'm sending you the scan data now. 23 human children, Ambassador. The oldest can't be more than 13, the youngest around 8. Han's fingers flew across his console, bringing up the bioscan readings. Each small dot on the screen represented a child, trapped in what the Craxians had labeled as a research facility on their mining world. "How did we miss this?" Han asked, more to himself than to Dara. "How long have they been there?" "Based on my investigation, at least 6 months," Dara replied. "Remember that colony ship that went missing near Section 87? The one the Craxians claimed was destroyed by asteroids." She paused, letting the connection sink in. "They're the survivors." Han felt his blood run cold. He remembered the incident. The Craxians had provided debris evidence, and everyone had mourned another tragic space accident. Now he understood the truth was far worse. "I've managed to get closer to the facility," Dara continued. "They're running tests on the children, studying how humans adapt, how quickly we learn. The Craxians see them as perfect test subjects, young enough to be moldable, old enough to follow instructions." Han's fist clenched. In all his years representing humanity in the Galactic Council, he'd dealt with prejudice, fear, and misunderstanding. But this was beyond anything he'd imagined possible. "Send me everything you have," he ordered. "Every scan, every image, every piece of data. I want times, dates, names, especially the names of every Craxian involved." "Already done," Dara said. "But Han, be careful. The Craxians have friends in the Council, powerful ones. They're using some old salvage rights law to justify this, claiming the children were abandoned property from a destroyed vessel." Han's jaw tightened. "Property. They're calling our children property." He took a deep breath, forcing himself to think like a diplomat. "How close can you get to them?" "I've managed to tap into their security feeds." "The children," Dara's voice caught for a moment. "They're stronger than you'd imagine. They've organized themselves, looking after each other. There's a boy, June. He's been keeping the younger ones calm. And a little one named Ha. He's become their heart." The computer chimed, indicating more files arriving from Dara. Han opened them, his heart heavy as he saw the first images. Children in simple gray uniforms, sleeping in pod-like beds, being led to testing chambers. Their faces showed fear, but also determination. "Keep watching them," Han instructed. "But don't risk exposure. I'm going to need time to handle this properly." He looked at the children's faces again. "If we move too fast, the Craxians might. We can't risk the children's safety." Dara nodded. "Understood. But Han, don't take too long. Some of these tests they're running, they're getting more dangerous." 24 hours, Han promised. "I'll have a plan in 24 hours. Stay safe, Dara." After the communication ended, Han remained at his desk, studying the faces of the imprisoned children. He thought of his own daughter back on Earth, safe and free. These children deserved the same. Opening his diplomatic channel, Han began composing messages. He would need allies, and he knew just where to start. The Nexar representative, Kija, had always shown a particular interest in human culture. More importantly, her species held children sacred. As he worked, Han glanced one more time at the image of the children. "Hold on," he whispered. "Help is coming." Deep in the Craxian facility, unaware of Han's discovery, 23 human children slept in their pods, dreaming of home. And in one pod, young Jun lay awake, watching the guards, listening, learning, and waiting for a chance, any chance, to get his fellow captives to safety. Dara moved silently through the maintenance tunnels of the Craxian facility. Her heart pounded as she checked her scanner again. The children were just 2 levels below her position. She had spent 3 days mapping every route, every guard rotation, and every security measure. In her ear, a tiny communicator crackled. "Dara, are you there?" Han's voice was barely a whisper. "Here," she replied softly. "I'm sending you new footage." They moved 6 of the children to a different testing area today. She pressed herself against the wall as heavy footsteps passed by. 2 Craxian guards walked past her hiding spot, talking in their clicking language. After 6 months undercover as a maintenance worker, Dara understood enough to make her blood boil. "The human young learn so quickly," one guard said. "Malgov will be pleased with today's results." "Yes, but the small one is getting sick. Too many tests too quickly." Dara waited until they were gone before sending another message to Han. "Did you get that? They're pushing the children too hard. We need to move faster." Back at the Galactic Council station, Han sat in a private meeting room with Kija, the Nexer representative. The tall, elegant alien's silver skin shimmed with anger as she watched the footage Dara had sent. "This is..." Kija's translator struggled to find the right words. "This is an abomination. In all my years, I have never seen such treatment of young ones." Han spread out the evidence they had gathered. "The Craxians are claiming it's legal. They're using Regulation 47B of the Salvage Code. Since they rescued the children from a destroyed ship, they're claiming salvage rights." Salvage rights. Kija's skin turned a dark gray with fury. "These are children, not cargo. My people will never stand for this." Han nodded. "That's why I came to you first. We need to build a coalition. The Craxians have powerful friends, but if enough species stand with us..." His data pad beeped with another message from Dara. This one contained medical scans she had copied from the facility's computers. Han's face grew pale as he read them. "They're not just studying how the children learn," he said. "They're testing their physical limits. Endurance trials, stress tests, even pain tolerance." He handed the pad to Kija. "Look at what they're planning next." Kija's eyes widened as she read. "These tests, they could kill the young ones. We must act now. We need proof that can't be denied," Han said. "Something that will turn even the Craxians' allies against them." He pulled up a map of the facility. "Dara has found a way into their main computer core. If we can get their complete research records..." In the facility below, young Jun was helping Ta back to his sleeping pod. The younger boy was shaking after the day's tests. "Just a little further," Jun whispered, supporting his friend. "You did great today. Remember what I told you. We have to stay strong." Ta nodded weakly. "I heard them talking, Jun. Someone named Malgov is coming tomorrow. They say he's bringing new tests." Jun helped Ta into his pod and quickly checked on the other children. Some were crying silently. Others just stared at the ceiling with empty eyes. He had to keep their hope alive. "Remember the maintenance worker?" he whispered to Ta. "The one with kind eyes. I think she's different from the others. I think she might be human." Back in the tunnels, Dara received a new message from Han. "We have support from the Nexer. 2 more species are ready to join us. Get those records. We're almost ready." Dara checked her stolen security card. In 3 hours, the night shift would begin. The computer core would be minimally staffed. It was her best chance. She thought of the children below, especially little Ta. His last medical scan showed his body was weakening. They were running out of time. In the council station, Han and Kija were meeting with more representatives. The evidence they already had was shocking enough to gain support, but they needed something undeniable, something that would force immediate action. Tomorrow, Han promised himself, looking at the children's pictures again. Tomorrow we'll have what we need. Hold on, little ones. Just hold on a little longer. In his private quarters, Malgov, the Craxian official, reviewed the latest test results with satisfaction. Humans were proving to be fascinating subjects. Tomorrow's new trials would push their limits even further. He had no idea that his carefully built research project was about to come crashing down around him. The lights in the sleeping chamber dimmed to their night setting, casting a soft blue glow over the 23 pods. June waited until he heard the guard's heavy footsteps fade away before carefully sliding out of his pod. He moved silently, just as he had practiced every night for 6 months. "Everyone awake," he whispered. Small movements and tiny whispers answered him. These night meetings kept them strong, kept them human. "Ta needs water," a girl named Mina said softly. The tests today made him very thirsty. June nodded and crept to their hidden supply. Over months, they had created a small storage space behind a loose wall panel. They kept extra water, bits of food, and even some tools they had managed to sneak away during their learning sessions. While June got water for Ta, 12-year-old Era began their nightly language lesson. The children huddled close together on the floor between the pods. "Remember," Era whispered, "when the guards click twice, and then make that chirping sound, they're talking about test results. When they click 3 times fast, they're angry about something." The children had turned their captivity into a chance to learn. Every day they watched, listened, and remembered. They knew more about the Craxian language than their captors realized. "I learned a new word today," Ta said weakly, sipping his water. "When they press their hands together and make that humming sound, it means they're worried. The nice maintenance worker did that when she saw me after the tests." June exchanged looks with some of the older children. They had all noticed the maintenance worker who seemed different. She moved like a human, and her eyes held sadness when she looked at them. "Tell us a story," June, one of the younger children, asked. "Tell us about Earth again." June sat in the middle of their circle. These stories kept their memories alive, kept them connected to their home. "On Earth," he began softly, "there are huge oceans filled with blue water. The sun feels warm on your face, and the wind carries the smell of flowers and grass. There are places called parks where children can run and play without any tests or pods." As he spoke, he noticed some of the younger ones crying silently. June reached out and held their hands. "We'll see it again," he promised. "Remember what I taught you. We stay strong, we stay smart, and we stay together. That's how we'll get home." Suddenly, Hana, their best lookout, made a quick gesture. Everyone froze. Footsteps were approaching. The children moved with practiced speed and silence, each returning to their pod. Within seconds, the room appeared peaceful and quiet, 23 children seemingly asleep in their pods. 2 Craxian guards entered, followed by Malgov himself. The children had learned to recognize the head researcher by his distinctive walk and the way other Craxians acted around him. "Tomorrow's tests will be crucial," Malgov said to the guards. "The human young have shown remarkable progress. Their ability to adapt, to learn our ways, it exceeds all expectations." "Sir," one guard said nervously, the youngest one, "his readings are concerning." "All research has costs," Malgov replied coldly. "Continue the tests as planned." After they left, June waited several minutes before whispering, "Everyone okay?" Soft whispers confirmed they were all fine, but Tay's pod remained quiet. June carefully moved to check on him. Tay was awake but shaking. "I don't feel good, June," he whispered. "The tests, they hurt more than usual today." "Hold my hand," June said, reaching through the gap between their pods. "Remember what we learned about being quiet and brave. Just a little longer. I promise." As Tay held onto his hand, June looked around at all the pods at his fellow captives who had become like family. They had learned so much, grown so strong together. The Craxians thought they were just studying them, but the children were studying right back. Every door code, every guard rotation, every maintenance tunnel they were taken through. The children remembered it all. They had maps drawn in their minds, escape routes planned, just waiting for the right moment. "Sleep now," June whispered to everyone. "Tomorrow will be hard, but we'll face it together. And remember, the nice maintenance worker was watching again today." I saw hope in her eyes. In their pods, 23 children drifted off to sleep, some holding hands through the small gaps, others mouthing silent prayers. They were more than test subjects, more than captives. They were a family, growing stronger every day, waiting for their chance to break free. The main chamber of the Galactic Council erupted in chaos. Representatives from 30 different species all tried to speak at once. Their voices filled the vast room as Han stood at the center, his evidence displayed on the giant screens around them. Silence. The council leader's voice boomed through the chamber. The noise died down slowly, like a fading storm. Han took a deep breath and pointed to the screens. "These are not just numbers and test results. These are children, human children. They feel pain. They feel fear, and they have been held against their will for 6 months." The Craxian representative, a tall figure named Zorax, stood up. "We saved these young ones from a destroyed ship. Under galactic law, Section 47B, all salvage becomes property of the rescuing vessel." "They are not property." Heej's voice rang out. The Nexar representative's silver skin had turned almost black with anger. "They are children. Living, breathing children." More screens lit up, showing medical data that Dara had stolen. The images made many representatives gasp. Charts showed increasing levels of pain tests. Medical readings revealed signs of severe stress and physical trauma. "Look at what they're doing to them," Han said quietly. His calm voice somehow carried more power than any shout. "Look at how they treat children who were supposed to be under their protection." In the back of the chamber, 3 more representatives stood up. They were from the trading alliance that usually supported the Craxians, but now they moved away from their usual allies. "The trading alliance withdraws all support from Craxian activities," one announced. "We cannot be associated with those who harm children." Zorax's face showed panic for the first time. "These tests are perfectly legal. We are advancing scientific knowledge." The human young recover quickly. They adapt. That's what makes them perfect test subjects. Perfect test subjects. Han's voice shook with controlled anger. "Let me show you what your perfect tests do." New images appeared. The screen showed Ta, the youngest child, after his latest round of tests. His small body shook with pain. The medical readings showed dangerous levels of stress. The chamber fell completely silent. "He is 8 years old," Han said into the silence. 8 years old. Kija moved to stand beside Han. "The Nexar Empire withdraws all diplomatic relations with the Craxian government until these children are released." More representatives stood up. One by one, they announced their support for the humans. Trade deals were canceled. Diplomatic ties were cut. The Craxians were quickly becoming isolated. Zorax tried one last time. "You don't understand. The knowledge we're gaining. The potential benefits." Benefits. A new voice spoke. The Andoran representative, known for usually staying neutral, stood up. "What benefits could be worth torturing children? Our laws exist to protect the weak, not to give excuses to the strong." Han held up his hand, asking for silence. "I speak now not just as a human diplomat, but as a father. Every parent in this room, every person who has ever cared for a child. Ask yourself, what if these were your children?" The screens changed again, showing all 23 children. Their faces, their names, their ages appeared one by one. The chamber watched in silence. "These are not test subjects," Han continued. These are not salvage. These are children who just want to go home. I ask the council. No, I demand that the council act now. The council leader stood slowly. In 300 years, the council had never seen such unity among its members. A vote will be taken, the leader announced. The council will decide on immediate action regarding the Craxian research facility and the human children. As the voting began, Han received a secret message from Dara. Something's wrong. Malgov is planning to move the children. We're running out of time. Han looked at the voting displays. Most representatives were already voting to help the children, but the official process would take hours. He sent a quick message back to Dara. Keep watching. If they try to move the children, give the signal. We'll launch the rescue operation immediately, with or without council approval. In the facility below, Malgov was indeed making plans. If he was going to lose his test subjects, he would at least complete his most important experiments first. He had no idea that both above and below, forces were gathering to stop him. Han paced in the small planning room, surrounded by holograms showing the Craxian facility. 5 other beings sat around the table, Dara appearing via secure channel, Kija from the Nexer, and 3 special operations experts from different alien species. Time is against us, Han said, pointing to the facility's layout. Malgov plans to move the children within 6 hours. The council vote won't be done by then. Dara's hologram nodded. I've mapped every exit and entrance. The main problem is the security system. It needs Craxian DNA to unlock the important doors. I can help with that, said Ren, a small, gecko-like alien specialist. My people can copy any biological signature. Give me 10 minutes with a Craxian, and I can fool their scanners. Kija spread out her own maps. My warriors can create a distraction here, at the main gate. The Craxians will never expect the Nexer to attack directly. It goes against all our usual tactics. The plan began to take shape. Each person added their own piece to the puzzle. The room's holograms showed their plan movements in different colors, weaving together like a complex dance. Meanwhile, in the facility below, Jun was teaching the younger children a new game. But this wasn't really a game. It was preparation disguised as play. Remember, he whispered, when I say red light, you freeze completely. When I say green light, you run as quietly as you can. If you hear any noise, you hide in the nearest safe spot. The children practiced in their room, using the space between their sleeping pods. They had gotten very good at moving silently and finding hiding places quickly. Todd watched from his pod, too weak to join in. The last tests had left him pale and shaking. June kept checking on him, bringing him water, and holding his hand. Back in the planning room, Dara's hologram flickered with urgency. The children have already mapped most of the escape routes themselves. They're smarter than the Craxians know. They'd been practicing emergency plans every night. Good, said Han. They'll need to be ready to move fast. He turned to the third expert, a tall being made of shifting shadows. Your team can handle the power systems. The shadow being's voice whispered like falling leaves. We will darken all corridors except the escape route. The children will see their path lit before them, while the Craxians stumble in darkness. Kija's silver skin glowed with determination. My warriors are already in position, hidden around the facility. We await only your signal. Han looked at each of them. Once we start, we'll have exactly 30 minutes. Any longer, and Craxian reinforcements will arrive. He touched a button, and the hologram showed the timing for each part of their plan. Dara spoke up again. I've made friends with some of the local maintenance workers. Not all Craxians support what Malgov is doing. They'll help us at the right moment. In his private office, Malgov was preparing for his own plans. He looked at the test results with greedy eyes. Such wonderful data, he mumbled to himself. Just a few more tests. The strongest ones might survive. He didn't notice that his computer was secretly copying every file, sending proof of his cruel experiments to Han and the Council. The rescue team continued their planning. Each person checked their equipment and reviewed their role. They had only one chance to save 23 children. "Remember," Han said firmly, "no matter what happens, the children are our priority. If anything goes wrong, forget the plan and just get them out." Kija stood, her silver skin now shimmering with patterns of light. "In my culture, we have a saying, 'Those who protect children walk with the stars.' Today, we will all walk with the stars." The others nodded. Each of them came from different worlds, different species, but they were united in their mission. They would not let these children suffer any longer. Dara's hologram looked at her watch. 5 hours until Malgov plans to move them. We need to act before then. "Send the signal to all teams," Han ordered. "We move in 4 hours. May whatever gods exist watch over us all." As the rescue team made their final preparations, 23 children tried to sleep in their pods. They didn't know that help was coming. They didn't know that beings from across the galaxy were risking everything to save them. They only knew they had to stay strong for one more night. Little did they know, it would be their last night in captivity, one way or another. Malgov stood in the testing chamber, watching as his assistants prepared the equipment. "Bring the young one," he ordered. "The small one who shows signs of weakness." 2 guards went to fetch Ta. In the sleeping area, Jun tried to stop them, but they pushed him aside. The other children watched helplessly as the guards carried Ta away. "No more tests," Ta whispered weakly. "Please." But Malgov didn't care about the child's plea. He had only 3 hours left before he would have to move his test subjects. He needed to complete his most important experiment. In the maintenance tunnels above, Dara saw everything through the security feeds. Her hand shook as she sent an urgent message to Han. "They're taking Ta for more tests. He won't survive another round." Han was still in the council chamber, watching the endless voting process. When he saw Dara's message, he knew they couldn't wait any longer. He quickly sent out a coded signal to all rescue teams. "Move now." In the testing chamber, Malgov's assistants hooked Ta up to various machines. The small boy's face was pale, his breathing shallow. The medical monitors showed dangerous readings, but Malgov ignored them. "Begin the stress test," he ordered. Suddenly, June's voice rang out from the doorway. "Stop." He stood there with all 22 other children behind him. They had followed the guards, moving silently just as they had practiced. Malgov turned in surprise. "How did you get out?" "Guards." But something unexpected happened. When the guards moved to grab the children, they didn't run away. Instead, they moved together as one group, just as they had practiced in their night games. "We won't let you hurt Ta anymore," Jun said firmly. The other children formed a circle, their faces showing no fear. At that exact moment, the facility's lights flickered. The Shadow Beings team had begun their work, causing chaos in the power systems. Dara's voice came through the facility's speakers, no longer disguised. "This is a message to all Craxian workers. Your government has abandoned you. The Galactic Council has voted to condemn these experiments. Anyone who helps us rescue the children will receive full protection." Malgov's face turned pale. "No. Security teams. Lock down all sectors." But many of his own workers had turned against him. The maintenance crews, who had seen the children suffering day after day, began opening doors instead of closing them. Above the facility, Kija's warriors created a massive distraction. Their ships appeared suddenly, lighting up the sky with a display that drew all eyes upward. Inside, Ren, the gecko-like alien, had already copied a Craxian's DNA signature. Security doors began opening one by one, creating an escape route. "You're ruining everything," Malgov screamed. He grabbed Ta, holding the weak child like a shield. "Stay back, or this one suffers." What happened next surprised everyone. The children, who had spent months learning the Craxian language, began speaking to the guards in their own tongue. "We know you have children too," they said in clicking Craxian speech. "We've heard you talk about them. Would you let someone hurt your children like this? The guards looked at each other. Slowly, they lowered their weapons. One of them stepped toward Malgov, speaking firmly. "Sir, release the child." "Traitors." Malgov backed away, still holding Ta. "Don't you understand what we could learn? The potential knowledge." "The only thing you've taught us," Jum said clearly, "is that some adults can be monsters. But you also taught us that other adults will fight those monsters." As if to prove Jum's words, the ceiling panel above Malgov suddenly burst open. Dara dropped down, no longer disguised as a maintenance worker. In one swift move, she pulled Ta from Malgov's grip. The children cheered. Their friend, the kind-eyed maintenance worker, had finally revealed who she really was. Malgov tried to run, but found himself surrounded by his own workers. They had seen too much, stayed quiet too long. Now they were choosing to do what was right. "Rescue teams, move in," Dara spoke into her communicator. "The children are safe." "I repeat, the children are safe." Through the facility's windows, they could see ships landing. Rescue ships from a dozen different species, all coming to help take the children home. Ta, now safe in Dara's arms, looked up at her with tired eyes. "We knew you were different," he whispered. "We knew you would help us." The revolution had begun with the smallest and weakest of them, but it would end with the unity of many species standing against cruelty. The breaking point had come, and with it, freedom. The facility erupted into organized chaos. Lights flashed on and off as the shadow beings controlled the power systems. In the darkness, 23 children moved as one group, following paths they had memorized during months of secret planning. "Remember our practice," Jum called out softly, "just like our night games." "Tai, are you okay?" "I'm okay," Tai answered from Dara's arms. Though weak, his eyes were bright with hope. "The nice worker, Dara, she's really strong." Dara led the way, her body tense and alert. "The rescue ships are landing on the east platform. We have to move fast. Han has bought us some time, but Craxian military ships will be here soon." Through the facility's windows, they could see Kija's warriors creating an amazing light show in the sky. Their ships danced and sparkled, drawing attention away from the rescue ships landing quietly on the other side of the facility. "Red light," June suddenly whispered. Everyone froze as footsteps approached. They had played this game so many times, but now it was real. A group of Craxian security guards ran past their hiding spot, not seeing the children pressed against the dark walls. The shadow beings had done their work well. The corridors were full of moving darkness that confused any searchers. "Green light," Jun said after the guards passed. The children moved forward again, silent as shadows themselves. Above them, Han's voice came through Dara's communicator. "The Council has officially ordered all Craxian forces to stand down. But Malgov's supporters aren't listening. They're sending ships. You have 15 minutes." They reached a large security door. This was where Ren's copied DNA would be tested. Dara pressed her hand to the scanner, now covered with a thin film containing the copied Craxian genetic pattern. For a moment, nothing happened. The children held their breath. Then, with a soft hiss, the door slid open. "Well done, Ren," Dara whispered. The gecko-like alien had kept his promise. His fake DNA signature worked perfectly. But as they moved through the door, alarms suddenly blazed. Malgov's voice roared through the facility's speakers. "Stop them. The human children must not escape. My research cannot be lost." "Run," Dara commanded. There was no more need for quiet games now. The children sprinted forward, still staying together, still protecting each other as they had learned to do. Behind them, they heard Malgov screaming orders. But many of his own workers were now helping the children, blocking corridors and sealing doors to slow down the guards who still followed Malgov's commands. They turned a corner and found their path blocked by 3 armed guards. But before anyone could move, silver figures dropped from the ceiling. Kija's warriors. They didn't hurt the guards, but quickly tied them up with strange, shimmering ropes. "Hurry," one warrior said. "The ships are waiting." They could see the landing platform ahead through large windows. Rescue ships sat ready, their doors open. Medical teams waited to help Ty and any other children who needed care. But Malgov had one last trick. The platform's outer doors began to close, giant metal shields that would trap them inside. "No," Todd cried weakly. "We're so close." Then something amazing happened. The maintenance workers, led by those who had befriended Dara, ran to the door controls. They fought against Malgov's commands, using their own access codes to keep the doors open. "Go," the workers shouted. "We'll hold the doors." The children ran onto the platform. Cold space air hit their faces, their first taste of freedom in 6 months. Medical teams rushed forward, gently taking Ta from Dara's arms and checking the other children. "Everyone on the ships now," Dara ordered. "Malgov's supporters are coming." The children moved quickly, helping each other into the rescue ships. Just as the last child stepped aboard, they heard explosions. Craxian military ships had arrived, firing warning shots. But it was too late to stop the rescue. The ships, piloted by the best crews from 6 different species, lifted off. The children watched through the windows as the facility grew smaller below them. "We did it," Jum said softly, holding Ta's hand as the medical team worked to help him. "We're free." In the distance, they saw more ships arriving, these ones bearing the marks of the Galactic Council. Han had succeeded. The Council's peacekeeping forces would handle the Craxian military ships. The children had escaped, together, just as they had survived. Together, their nightmare was finally over. 1 week after the rescue, Han stood in the great medical center of the Galactic Council station. Through a large window, he watched the rescued children playing in a special care area. They were still together, just as they had been during their captivity, but now their faces showed joy instead of fear. "Their recovery is remarkable," said the head doctor, a gentle being from a species known for their healing skills. "Especially young Ta. His will to live is very strong." Han nodded, watching as Tai ran and played with the others. The boy who had been so weak just a week ago was growing stronger every day. The best medical teams from 12 different species had worked together to help him heal. In another part of the station, Dara sat in a meeting with representatives from 30 worlds. She was telling them everything she had seen in the facility. Her evidence, combined with the files they had stolen, was creating a storm across the galaxy. 7 major trading partners have cut all ties with the Craxians, and aid reported to Han. Their economy is falling apart. Their own people are protesting in the streets, demanding changes in their government. But Han wasn't thinking about politics right now. He was watching Jun organize the other children in a new game. Even here, safe in the medical center, they stay together, protecting each other. "Ambassador Han," Tez's voice called out. The boy waved from behind the window. "Look what I can do." He did a small jump, showing how much stronger he had become. Han waved back, smiling. These moments made all the diplomatic battles worth it. In the council chambers, more changes were happening. Kija stood before the full assembly, her silver skin glowing with passion as she spoke. "We must create new laws," she declared. "Laws that protect all children, of all species. No one must ever again be able to hide behind rules about salvage rights to harm the young ones." The council members, still shocked by what had happened, voted quickly to create these new laws. Many of them had seen the children themselves, had watched them play and heal in the medical center. Those small faces had changed their hearts forever. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Other species shared their own stories of children who needed protection. The rescue of the human children had started something much bigger. "The Craxian workers who helped us," Dara reported to Han, "they're being called heroes by their own people. Many Craxians are ashamed of what their government did. They want to make things right." Indeed, hundreds of Craxian citizens had come forward, offering to help the children in any way they could. Some sent toys, others offered their homes as safe places for future human travelers. A whole society was trying to heal from the evil that some of their leaders had done. Back in the medical center, the children were drawing pictures. They drew their memories of Earth, but also new pictures. Pictures of the alien friends who had helped save them. Silver Nexar warriors, shadow beings, gecko-like spies, and many others appeared in their art. "When can we go home?" June asked Han during one of his daily visits. "Soon," Han promised. "We're arranging special ships to take you back to Earth. But first, many people want to thank you." He wasn't exaggerating. The children had become symbols of hope across the galaxy. Their courage, their unity, their ability to stay strong and help each other. These things had touched the hearts of beings from countless worlds. Malgov and his closest supporters had been arrested. They would face justice not just from humans, but from the combined legal systems of many worlds. Their crimes had united the galaxy in a way that no diplomatic agreement ever had. In the medical center's play area, Tai was teaching some young Nexar visitors how to play one of the quiet games the children had invented in captivity. The silver-skinned alien children were fascinated, learning to move silently and work together just as the human children had. "They're changing the galaxy," Dara said softly to Han as they watched. "Not through their suffering, but through their strength, through their ability to stay human and kind even in the darkest times." Han nodded. The children's story was being told on every world, in every language. It was a story of horror transformed into hope, of evil overcome by unity and courage. And in the medical center, 23 children played and healed, surrounded by the love and protection of 1,000 stars. 1 month after the rescue, the Great Hall of Justice on the Galactic Council Station was full. Beings from hundreds of worlds watched as Malgov and his supporters were brought in for sentencing. The former Kraxian researcher looked small now, his proud attitude gone. In the front row sat 23 human children, all healthy and strong again. Tai, now fully recovered, held June's hand as they watched. They had asked to be here for this moment. They wanted to see justice done. "Malgov," the Chief Justice began, "you stand convicted of crimes against sentient beings, illegal imprisonment of minors, and causing deliberate harm to children. Do you understand these charges?" Malgov could only nod. The evidence against him had been overwhelming. His own research files, which he had kept so carefully, proved his guilt. The Chief Justice continued, "This court sentences you and your supporters to 50 years in the Deep Space Rehabilitation Colony. Furthermore, you are banned for life from any research involving living beings." But that wasn't the most important thing happening that day. After the sentencing, Han stood up to make a special announcement. "Today, we established the Ta protocols," he declared. "These new laws will protect children of all species throughout known space. Never again will anyone be able to harm children and hide behind legal tricks." The protocols were named after the youngest and bravest of the rescued children. Ta blushed when he heard his name, but sat up straighter. He understood that his suffering had helped make the galaxy safer for other children. Later that day, in a large gathering room, the children prepared for their journey home. Representatives from many worlds had come to say goodbye and give them gifts. Kija, the Nexar representative, presented each child with a small crystal that glowed with silver light. "These are star heart crystals," she explained. "They will always remind you that you have friends among the stars." The shadow beings gave them special cloaks that could hide them in darkness if they ever felt afraid. The gecko-like aliens brought tiny communicators that could call for help across any distance. But the most surprising gift came from the Kraxian people themselves. A group of their artists had created a beautiful memorial, a floating crystal garden that would orbit their world forever. The garden would remind everyone of the human children who had suffered there, and of the importance of standing up against evil. "We are sorry," the Kraxian representative said, bowing deeply to the children. "We will teach our own children about you, so this never happens again." Dara, who had risked everything to help save the children, had tears in her eyes as she hugged each one goodbye. "You taught me as much as I helped you," she told them. "You showed everyone what real courage looks like." The ship that would take them back to Earth was special. Each child would have their own room, filled with comfortable things from many worlds. The best doctors would travel with them, making sure they stayed healthy and happy. Before they left, Joan asked to say something to the gathered aliens. He stood straight and spoke clearly, just as he had done when leading the other children during their captivity. "We want you to know something," he said. "We don't hate you for what happened to us. We'll remember the bad things, yes, but we'll remember the good things more. We'll remember how beings from all over the galaxy came together to help us. We'll remember that there are good people everywhere, even in places where bad things happen." His words were translated into 100 languages, broadcast across thousands of worlds. Many beings cried as they listened, moved by the wisdom and forgiveness in this young human's voice. The children's last act before boarding their ship was to plant a garden in the station's main park. They used seeds from Earth that Han had brought them, mixing them with plants from other worlds. "This garden will grow," Ta said softly, patting the soil around a small seedling. "And so will we." As their ship lifted off, lights flashed from every ship and station nearby. A galaxy's farewell to 23 brave children who had changed it forever. Han watched them go, knowing that their story would be told for generations. It would be a story of darkness overcome by light, of cruelty defeated by kindness, of children who kept their humanity even in the darkest places. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a crystal garden orbited a distant world, its lights twinkling like frozen tears, a promise to remember and to do better.